Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Shook Hardy and Bacon's Privacy and Data Security Chats. I'm your host, Colman McCarthy. It's been quite a while since we've had one of these. In fact, it's been long enough that I got a haircut and my hair has grown back out to what it looked like for the last chat. Today, we're talking about ransomware. And for that purpose, we have brought on our guru of ransomware response, Ben Patton. Ben, why don't you introduce yourself to the people out there in the internet verse?
Yeah, thanks, Coleman. Pleasure to be here. I also got a haircut as well, so I'm looking spiffy for the occasion. My name's Ben Patton, for those of you who don't know me. I work in Shook's Privacy and Data Security Practice Group. I also do some IP work as well that requires me writing patent applications for some of our high-tech clients, such as Microsoft, NVIDIA, Adobe, et cetera. So, on top of my privacy data security experience, I'm also have a good technical background. I have a computer science degree, and before I was a lawyer, I actually did some information security work for a large telecommunications company. So, I'm pretty well versed in the area, and I love talking about the area, which is why I'm here today, giving my second presentation of the day. So I always get hyped up to talk about this topic.
Which is why we always staff you to it, because they're better to have somebody who loves the work do it than somebody like me who would just be lost and just pushing it off to other people. Anyway, so we're talking about ransomware, and ransomware, as we all know, is big business these days, very big business. Just saw something the other day that IBM was reporting that a single ransomware variant, I think it's L.L.P, the revenue that has been generated by that variant this year alone, and the year's not over yet, this year alone is something like $81 million in ransomware payments for that amount. So it's a big deal. What other big stats should we throw at the people, Mr. Patton?
Yeah, I mean, you just hit on it. It's the size of these ransom demands. They're just growing, and like at a rate we've never seen, right? So from like May 2020, like the average ransom demand was like $170,000. In July, like 2 months later, it went all the way up to $630K. I mean, that's almost $500,000 ramp up. So it just keeps growing. We're seeing demands from some of the clients we've had in, a couple $1 million up to $40 million. And of course, you can negotiate these down, but as the attackers just get more bold, it's only going to get worse. And especially as they're making money off of it, right? Because that's ultimately what they want. They just want to get paid. And it's just going to keep growing. There's no signs of it slowing down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that $81 million figure was just for the one variant.
Yeah.
What are the other major variants that are out there right now that we know about that these and how are these proliferating so much? Like how is ransomware getting out there so much? Are we talking about a couple criminal gangs out there, or what's the story on that?
Yeah, so one of the big variants we're seeing right now is Lockbit, Dharma, WannaCry is another big one. I mean, they're just new variants popping up every day. I don't even think the security researchers can keep up with it. I think at one point there's probably over 1,200 variants that are live out there right now. But a big thing moving forward is some of these threat actor groups, which is basically what we call the attackers, is them deploying this software sort of as a business, right? It's their new SaaS platform. They're offering ransomware as a service, RAS. It's the new big thing, right? So basically they have a dark web, merchant space where people can go and purchase this malicious software from them and use it. And when that person uses it, a cut of that portion of money goes back to the bigger group who created the software, right? And it can range from 50%, 60%, all the way down to 20%. It just kind of varies based on the group, which brings up some interesting issues when it gets deployed, right? Because if if the person who purchases the ransomware, let's say that they want $500,000 to decrypt your data, and you're willing to pay, and you pay because you need that data back, and then that attacker just goes away. That creates a problem for the bigger group because their ransomware is now associated. They basically get a bad reputation, right? Mm-hmm. So if word gets out that these attackers aren't reciprocating with the key when someone pays, it gets a bad reputation, and then no one's gonna pay them anymore, and they're not gonna make money, and that's the worst possible thing for them.
Is there a Yelp for threat actors? Can we? Is there somewhere we can post a bad review? And
yeah, well, word gets around pretty fast on those dark web forums, and as you know, Colman, they take these threat actor groups take their reputation seriously. It's a big part of who they are and kind of what they thrive on, right? If you've ever been in a situation where you've had to deal with these threat actors, you know that they do kind of weird things, such as offering 24/7, like a call center, right? Yeah. So if you do pay the ransom, they'll try to help you out. And we've seen where they actually will tell you the vulnerability in your system that they used to get in so you can fix it. And that can be part of the ransom negotiation. So they take their reputation seriously.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the vulnerabilities, I mean, obviously we all hope to avoid being the victim of a ransomware attack. Any tips for the people out there on steps to take to guard against ransomware? I mean, anything above and beyond just, reasonable security?
Yeah, right. Well, you hear ransomware, and I think a lot of people just kind of think about it as oh, that involves IT and security, right? We need better security systems, but honestly, the biggest vulnerability is us, right? Mm-hmm. People. The biggest way we see these attackers get in is through social engineering tactics, whether that's just through a phishing email campaign, spear phishing, seeing business email compromises lead to ransomware. These typically aren't super sophisticated attacks on companies where someone's, hacking, trying to figure out a way to get into someone's firewall or something like that. It's usually through social engineering. An interesting one I've seen recently involves malicious advertisements on people's websites, right? So those who don't know, if a company wants to put advertisements on their websites, they go through a third party to do that. And the third party basically checks out, make sure everything's okay with those advertisements that are being posted there. But attackers have found a way to basically circumvent that system, right? So when the advertisement's posted, it all looks good, and then they go back later and are able to change the code. Right. When someone clicks on it, they could be infected. Seeing a lot of, basically fake updates, if you will, right? So you get some sort of update that says Google Chrome is out of date, or you need to update, you click on that link and boom, you're infected, and your company could be brought to their knees over it, depending on how your systems are implemented. So, employee training is probably the most important thing you can do, especially in times right now where we're all working remotely. It's more important than ever. If your IT or security team is pushing back on you saying, no, we have too many other things to do right now with everyone working remotely, don't put it on the back burner. Make it a priority.
Yeah. And I like to tell people to be skeptical of everything. I mean, I think that's just good advice in general when you're confronting the internet and any type of communications where you're not face to face with somebody. Be skeptical. Don't just click the link. But if you do click the link and if you are hit by ransomware, that brings into consideration other issues such as whether to pay, whether to notify. Any advice on either of those subjects?
Yeah. So as far as whether to pay, typically it's a business decision, right? You value how much your data is worth and what it's going to cost you to get that back. And it's a balancing act, right? That's usually the biggest factor. As far as legal factors go, there's nothing that says basically that you can't make this payment except for one thing, and that is the Department of Treasury has this big giant list of sanctioned organizations. And basically, if you want to make a payment to someone, you should check that list first, right? Because if anyone on that list accepts money from you, you could be held criminally liable. And so as security researchers are getting better at determining, what ransomware variants are associated with what different groups, there's a chance that some of these groups are going to be listed on that Department of Treasury sanctions list. One group I know for sure is called Evil Corp. It's run by two, I think, 20-something-year-old Russian hackers, basically, who run this organization. I mean, you can Google it right now. Google Evil Corp. It'll come up. It'll be pictures of these two, super young-looking Russian gentlemen who are driving crazy colored Lamborghinis around. And so they were recently placed on the OFAC list. And one variant of ransomware that's associated with them is WannaCry. And if you're ever considering making a payment to them, you should definitely check that list. And if you outsource your ransomware negotiations to a third party, such as Coveware or Arete, they will check that for you and make sure that you're all good to go. But it's a big consideration moving forward, especially as I foresee some of these other organizations being put on the OFAC list. It's also going to get harder to tell as ransomware as a service is used, because you may not be able to associate threat actors with that particular ransomware. So there's a whole host of issues, and it's continually evolving. We had a client recently who was ready to make a payment, and then literally on the last day, as they were about to wire the money to Coveware to make the payment to these threat actors, they shut it down because they figured out that this group was on the sanctions list, and they wouldn't move forward with the payment. So it's a big thing moving forward.
You see anything else on the horizon when we're talking about moving forward? What are the next big issues in ransomware that you can predict or foresee?
Well, some of this may be speculation too. Look, I'm not.
Go ahead and speculate. Nobody's going to hold us to anything. It's just a private conversation that is not going to be posted on the internet anywhere.
One thing I see and I've heard is the potential for ransomware. We're kind of past the point where it's just a drive-by now, and many of these threat actor groups are now exfiltrating data so they can hold the data captive. So even if you have secure backups, unlock your data, they still stole your data and they'll threaten to release it publicly. So that's another way that they're figuring out how to earn money. One kind of scary thought moving forward is the threat actors accessing companies or people's systems and changing the integrity of the data, right? So they get in and they change a bunch of Colman McCarthy's info. And if you don't have any backups or a way to check that data, I mean, you basically have to start over from scratch. That data it's not good. It's lost its integrity. So that's something kind of scary moving forward. Another thing I just saw, I think it was yesterday, was this security researcher was able to basically put some ransomware software on a coffee maker. He didn't do much with it, right? Like,
nobody messes with my coffee. That's why
exactly.
That's why I use the old-fashioned pour-over method, because I just right,
Yeah. And it's not significant because there's really nothing you can do with a coffee maker. He turned it on. He made it just nonstop grinding noises, super annoying. But again, you pull the plug on it and that's it. But I think the bigger takeaway from that is the fact that, as everything moves to being connected, right, your refrigerator is now a smart device. cars are now smart devices. There's going to be more vulnerabilities in these threat actors.
I mean, you have your lights, you have your thermostat, you have, everything else that's controlled, your smart speakers, your television, anything that's connected to the internet now, which is basically anything.
Yep.
If all that's going to be vulnerable to ransomware, I mean, I know I can't live without TV for, more than a day, maybe.
Yeah.
I have resisted getting a smart thermostat for this type of paranoid reason. But think about all the stories that have come out already about people hacking into IoT devices. Now, now imagine that people are demanding that you pay them in Bitcoin to unlock it, either that or have to replace your system. So. Yeah. Our brave new ransomware world here.
Yeah, you don't just have a few Bitcoin lying around just in case it happens.
I've got a Bitcoin purse.
Yeah,
it takes up a lot of space with all those zeros and ones.
Yeah, but no, I think it is an issue moving forward. I think especially, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, those smart devices, it's like, how often do we update some of those? Unless they're getting automatic software updates that are protecting against some of these vulnerabilities, it's typically not happening, right? When's the last time you updated your router or even your thermostat? I mean, all hosts of things that it leads to a scary world. And I'm not trying to, foreshadow some scary future, but these are serious considerations that are on the horizon.
All right. Well, with that, we've blown past our initial budget of time. Ben, Patton, thank you so much. It's been enlightening, and thank everybody out there in the world for watching. We'll talk to you next time.
Yeah. Thanks, Colman.